Of all the variables and barriers for reentry and success of getting out of prison, I will still stick with my original comment that it's ourselves.
In today's episode, I get to talk to Cheri Garcia, founder of Cornbread Hustle, a staffing agency exclusively for those who are in need of second chances, like the formerly incarcerated or people who have dealt with drug and alcohol addiction. She has dealt with her fair share of run-ins with the law and incarceration, the ups and downs of addiction, and this is just one of the many ways that she's decided to give back to those who are dealing with similar circumstances. I got to speak with her at the Texas Inmate Family Association's annual conference a couple of weeks ago here in Texas. And we talk a little bit about what motivated her to start Cornbread Hustle, what she thinks are the greatest challenges to reentry, and a little bit about where she sees the future of Cornbread Hustle. If stories like Cheri's are important to you, maybe because you have a loved one who's incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, please subscribe to this channel so you can hear more about it, like it, and share it with others who you think might benefit from it. Thanks. So I've heard of Cornbread Hustle for several years now, through work with Lee College, through grassroots, people referring me there. And I really appreciated what's going on there. I refer people there if I know that they're going to the DFW area. But for someone who doesn't know who Cornbread Hustle is, and I've seen you on numerous shows and things like that, if someone doesn't know what Cornbread Hustle is about, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So Cornbread Hustle is a staffing agency for second chances, meaning we help people coming out of prison and people in recovery find meaningful employment.
And it's primarily in DFW area or only in DFW area?
We are in the DFW area, but we have expanded to Little Rock, Arkansas, of all places. I know it's because there was a demand from one of our clients. They have a facility out there where they requested us to hire 200 people with felony convictions. So we decided to start an office out there because the opportunity was so great.
I feel like Houston got left out of the picture.
I'm waiting on my Houston companies. Reach out.
Yeah, well, there are a few. I've worked with a couple. There's a cabinet making, floor insulation and tile. So there's a couple out there. I'll have to make sure that they make a direct contact with you.
That would be awesome.
Because we do have our students, but those are individuals there. So having worked in with Reentry for a while, and so I've only worked officially in Reentry for 4 years, but as an ex-convict, I went through the process myself, and I've heard a lot of people in and out say all of the great things they want to do when they get out, one of which is start companies and staffing agencies, but no one's ever done it, but you did. So what was, I guess, one of the spark or the motivating factor that led you to do what other people just talk about?
Gosh, that's such a great question. You know, there are a lot of barriers, regardless if you're coming from prison or if you've never been to prison, as it relates to being an entrepreneur. There's cash flow issues. I would say the hardest barrier is yourself. Getting out of the way of yourself, because it's so discouraging trying to start a business. I have never met an entrepreneur that said every day was easy and I was happy all the time. I have gone through seasons of my entrepreneurial journey where I'm so depressed. I'm wondering, why am I even doing this? Is this even worth it? The best way that I can explain entrepreneurship is kind of like getting that perfect body. Like there are days that you just don't want to go to the gym or you don't feel good during your workout and you start to question yourself, is this even worth it? Yeah. And so many people give up before they start to see the fruits of their labor. There was a time just a couple of years ago that I was literally at a college campus scalping tickets just so I could afford gas to get to my next meeting. And this is while I was already years into trying to be an entrepreneur. So it takes a lot of grit and determination. I will say that a lot of people coming out of prison are such great entrepreneurs because they have been through it. Having to be resourceful, feeling depression, feeling loneliness, feeling discouraged, all of those things that come with the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. And while I'm talking about the highs and lows, let's talk about drug addiction. Have you ever been high?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a low?
Yeah.
I mean, they are like this, right? And it's just like that with entrepreneurship. So I feel like people coming out of prison are more resilient. What made me keep going? I think that's I think that's a really good question. If I'm being honest, it was God. For me, it was God. There were times that I wanted to give up, and God gave me some kind of a sign or person. A lot of times God works through people. There could be somebody watching this video right now and God just worked through me to give them the inspiration they needed to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's God's grace. That's God working in your life through other people. So the best answer I can give is God kept me going somehow, some way. Because if I look back at all the trials and all the disappointments, and just recently my father's death, and then I became a caregiver while at the peak of my business, making a pivot after COVID.
Yeah.
Like if I even look back at all of that stuff, I'm like, what kept you going?
Yeah.
God.
Well, I also like the fact that you pointed out there were character-based issues. You talked about grit, perseverance, resilience, and having gone through addiction in prison, people are very resourceful, creative, can make something out of nothing. And I think those are character attributes that are vital for a good entrepreneur. But if they're not matched with that perseverance and being able to move through the challenges, you're right. It's just a lot of great ideas. And I think that's where a lot of people stop. It's enjoyable to sort of think about these great ideas, but they don't come to fruition. But Cornbread Hustle really has.
Well, I read something the other day that said, as human beings, we tend to judge others on their actions or inaction. But we simply judge ourselves on our thoughts. So if we think we're going to do something and we have all these good intentions and good ideas, we're amazing people. But we're judging others based on not what they think in their head, not based on what they're saying, but based on what they're doing or not doing. And after I read that quote, it really resonated with me because I was like, that is so true. Even when I was still drinking, I had all these intentions and ideas about going sober for a while. I didn't even want to commit to it for a while. Yeah. I had all these intentions and ideas about losing weight and getting in the gym and eating healthy, drinking a gallon of water a day. I had all these dreams and goals and intentions, and then I told myself, I'm doing good because I'm thinking this way.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to think it first, but then ink it, write it down, then follow through with it. And then that's where you really start to see change.
What do you think is one of the most perpetual challenges in reentry generally, or maybe with employment specifically? All the variables, what do you think is one of the most constantly challenging issues?
Of all the variables and barriers for reentry and success of getting out of prison, I will still stick with my original comment that it's ourselves. I have so many times seen somebody come out of prison and have the top 3 things that people say are most needed: shelter, transportation, and a job.
Material needs.
I have seen many people be met with those needs, but they get in the way of themselves.
Yeah.
So the biggest barrier is ourselves. So with that said, I would say that instead of transportation and housing and a job, all things that are needed, the most important thing that we need that we're not getting enough of is therapy. Mental health access, good mental health, not you're in trouble so we're going to force you to sit in this class, but somebody that sits down and says, how are you? Who do you want to be? Who are you today? What happened that made you feel this way? What can we do about it? You know, stuff like that. I think at the end of the day, it's a lack of love and empathy. And that's what we all need. Because all of us, whether we've gone to prison or not, we need to experience love from the outside as we're trying to get that love on the inside. I'll tell you, for me, I started Cornbread Hustle 5 years ago, and I hadn't even changed yet. I was trying to pour into other people before I could pour into myself, because I was the last person that believed in myself. I did it completely backwards. But that tells me that there's a lot of other people like me who simply want to do good, want to be better. Deep down, none of us want to be screw-ups. We all want to be better, but sometimes we have different coping mechanisms that allow us to get in the way of ourselves, because failing because we decided to is a lot easier than rejection.
That is actually something that can be done before they get out. That engagement and working on themselves That's also something that's very common in prison. They start working out and they start thinking about the future. And when I've been in some of these reentry groups, I was part of some reentry group that was meeting in Houston, and all they were focusing on was a job. And, aside from logistically, I thought they had it sort of backwards because some people don't have a vehicle to get to a job, but there was no emphasis whatsoever on things like character, mental health, therapy.
Absolutely. If people who are still incarcerated are watching this video, which I hope they are, I would say cling on to those volunteers. Look for somebody who has what you want. Some people that may be watching this have been to AA or still go to AA. And they say when you're looking for a sponsor, look for somebody who has something you want. So if you see somebody that's living the life that you want to live when you get out of prison, cling on to them. If they're already a volunteer in prison, then they're already open to help you.
Yeah.
All it takes is to ask 3 simple words that's so hard for people to ask, and that's I need help. That's it. Go up to a volunteer and just open up with that I need help. And their eyebrows will raise and they'll be so excited that you ask them, because that's why they're there, to serve.
Yeah.
God has them going into prison because of some calling that they have on their life. So if you're in prison and you're watching this and there's a volunteer that has what you want in terms of success, or if it's a family man and you want to be just like him, or he's an entrepreneur, just go up to him and say, I need help, and open up the conversation that way.
Yeah. And you've done something similar to that, because Cornbread Hustle does more than just get folks jobs. I've seen that you all have like support groups in AA, and you have created in many ways through LinkedIn, through the different things you do, a community of people who know that they can network and speak to each other. We
do. So we feel that just giving a job is simply not enough. We do have so many employees that I can't afford a therapist for every employee. That would cost a lot of money. But I also don't have the time to have one-on-ones with every single employee. So it's funny that you said that, because I just sent an email out to all my employees yesterday, as a matter of fact, that said, hey everyone, below are a list of a few meetings that I host virtually myself, the founder of the company. If any of these appeal to you, let me know. And here's the link, and here's the password. Not even let me know. Here's the info to log in. Reach out to a recruiter if you need help getting on Zoom.
Yeah.
So we have a Tuesday morning AA group, a Thursday morning women's only Bible study, and a Sunday at 2 p.m. co-ed Bible study. And we'll just keep adding as we get. Right now it's just me, so there's only so much I can do, but I don't know, maybe I'll add even another one. We'll just continue to go until we have volunteers that reach out that want to lead certain meetings.
So Adam, who you met earlier, he suggested one time that I start an alumni support group on Zoom. And so I took him up on that. We've been doing it for about a year now. And so whenever a guy gets out who is Lee College affiliated, they can get in touch with me, and then they can just jump on the Zoom call on Wednesday, and whatever it is that they need. So like if they're in DFW, we're like, hey, have you been in touch with Cornbread Hustle yet? If they need ID or parole, whatever it is, they can just get on that call. And the last week we met, someone reached out to me because her brother had gotten out of prison and had no great influences. And he didn't even finish his GED in prison, but I was like, just tell him to get on the call, so that we could all try and help, network with him. So last question, what do you see going forward for Cornbread Hustle? You've expanded to Little Rock. What else do you see going forward?
Oh, I wish I could tell you what I see going forward for Cornbread Hustle, because to put things into perspective, just a year ago, I was 1 year sober, COVID hit, and I had to pivot into a disinfecting company. And I thought we were going to lose all of our jobs. Well, what happened was we became so popular because people were living off unemployment because of the coronavirus crisis. And who's not eligible for unemployment? People who are just released from prison because there's no work history. So while I was freaking out thinking we had to pivot because we were going to lose all our business, we grew exponentially. And so if you would have asked me a year ago, where are you going to be? I would have never said Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah. So I can't tell you where we're going to be. I can tell you for sure that I can guarantee we'll be opening up more cities based on the demand, based on clients that reach out. We do want to get a new building to where we can have more in-person gatherings. So I think Cornbread Hustle is going to be where it's at now, just scaled.
Yeah.
So my ultimate, like my word for 2022 will be scale. Just trying to scale. This year was, oh my gosh, as an entrepreneur, I thought the hardest thing about growing a business was getting started and staying with it. And that was really hard. But an even harder thing is being under pressure, doing really well, feeling responsible for so many lives, and making decisions day to day. Like before, whenever I was having a hard time getting started while being discouraged, I could just quit. I was just somehow seeing signs from God that told me to keep going. Now, even if I want to quit, I can't. It's like I'm a prisoner of my own success, right? The irony.
Yeah.
But this year, I've been working really hard on our foundation and building processes. As a solopreneur, I never had to have processes. I never had to have any type of rules, paid time off, employee benefits. I never had to have any of that. So we focused a lot on that this year. And in 2022, I want to focus on scaling.
So if somebody gets out right now, they're headed to the DFW area. They just look up Cornbread Hustle online, and that's how they get in touch with someone.
You can literally just Google Cornbread Hustle and you will find a phone number or an email, or it will allow you to apply online. So Cornbread Hustle, you'll find it on Google, or you can go to cornbreadhustle.com.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and Google and things like that. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to meet with me. This has been great, and I look forward to whatever you've got going, and I hope that you will expand to Houston.